And what we're going to do now is make the nose look less eye-warped, I guess you could say, and more round and Navi nose-ish. And how we're going to do this is by taking our paintbrush tool, making sure it's set on a fairly large fuzzy brush, zoom in a bit, and we're going to hold control and click up here around where it's kind of slightly shadowed at the place where the nose meets the eyebrows, or where they used to be. And what this will do, hold control and click, and what that'll do is it'll set the color. When we press control and click, it'll choose the color that we're clicking on, and it'll set that as our foreground color. So now we can paint with this. So basically you just want to get the right shape, how the lighting would look for the nose. So we'll hold control and get one of our lighter colors, paint over here about where the lighting should be, where you think it should be. This is just on my image. It's like this. When I say my image, I don't mean me, because this is obviously not me. First of all, I'm not female, as I hope you know. And what I do is you hold control and you click and you select about your mid-tone color, and then you just paint all over here. And then, as you can see, there's a kind of a bright contrast part between this color and our lighter and darker colors. So what I do is hold control and click right in the middle of those two colors, then paint along the border to make it more smooth and even. Now this will obviously make the nose look a bit better, but this is not going to be our finished product, so don't worry about that. I'll just do about that, and I'll speed up this part simply because it's fairly boring. Pretty much you just want to paint the nose the right colors and shapes. The shapes don't matter. The eye warping is when the shape matters. And just make the shape nicer. Okay, so I worked a bit on that. And as you may have realized, in this tutorial I'm not going into actually that much detail. And this is mostly because I don't want to have to split this tutorial into very many parts, because that just annoys everyone, including myself. So basically what I just did there is clicked in the middle of my two colors and painted over, then clicked in the middle, and then just keep on painting until you get kind of a smooth sort of gradient almost. Now for the sides, I'll just go into more detail about how I did those, and that's by control clicking and getting this sort of darker color, painting over the spot that needs painting, then finding the gradient and pretty much painting over at least half of what I just painted in that last stroke. Then finding the gradient again, and if it gets too far in, then I just take one of my middle colors and erase that out, then repeat that sort of gradient process. And then there's this section that I wanted to go through with you guys down here. Sorry if I sound like your teacher. And that is this sort of nose part. Now as you can see, when we eye warped it, then the nostril got a bit, well, eye warped. So what we have to do to fix that is hold control and take the color of one of these dark colors down here. Not the actual black of the nostril, but something fairly close. Maybe I'm going to size down the brush a bit because it's too big for this nose. And then you just want to sort of paint like that in this almost like a wide V shape. So we just get this dark sort of section. Now I'm going to size it up again, size up the brush, and continue with that gradient method like I said before. A lot of this is just the same stuff over and over. And over here, don't make it a lot more contrasty, because we don't want to make it smooth again. It needs to be sort of a sharp angle here. So we'll just take our dark color, paint over almost all of it usually. And we'll just take our lighter color, paint over that. Now I'm not doing the best of jobs, so don't tell your children to be like me when they grow up, although that would be fairly awesome. So you just want to continue gradienting, if that's a verb or even a word, and until you have pretty much the right shape of your nose. Now I just need to fix this section over here because it messed it up slightly when I was explaining to you guys. The smoothness is not really essential. I just think it helps with the final outcome. Make sure that you repeat the gradient process up here. In fact, I think I'm going to call it the gradient process from now on. At the top, at the bridge of your nose, very top where the glasses go. And yeah, so I'm just going to stop filming for 1 second. I'll be right back, simply because my screen recorder glitches if I record for too long. Okay, so I'm back. Sorry about that sort of intermission. When I was eye warping and painting, my nose shape got kind of messed up. So just wanted to let you know that don't follow my example in this, because you will mess up the shape of your nose and therefore your final outcome, which should be fairly awesome. Like, simply for Avatar's sake, it would be a disgrace to have the wrong shape of the nose. Okay, so anyway, I just fixed that up a little bit quickly, just right there. So after you're done this gradient step, we need to fix this shadow over here. Now, if the photo had actually been taken when this person had a nose that was this shape, this shadow would not exist. So basically we need to fix that. So we'll take our clone tool, which looks like a stamp, and the difference between the clone tool and the heal tool is not very big, actually. The clone tool, when you hold control and click, select its source, and then click somewhere, it'll actually copy and paste. It'll copy from your source and then paste to your destination, I guess you might call it. Whereas the heal tool would would kind of copy and paste the texture of the source. So as you can see, the result is drastically different from when I use the clone tool to fix the shadow. But for this section, we'll be using the clone tool, simply because that's the right tool for the job in this case. So set your source as close as you can to the shadow without actually taking one of these moles or defections, because if you copy one of those, people can tell, like, very easily. And then just sort of erase to the shape of the nose, to the shape of the shadow that you think is proper for the shape of the nose. So I think about that should be good. And try and change your source very often, or else people can clearly tell what you did, although we will be fixing that up a little bit. Just get the right shape there. That's very important, this step. It also looks weird because it's like, wow, the nose is flat, and yet there's this huge bumpy shadow. What's up with that? So I'll just continue with that. And then once you're done shaping your shadow, you might want to take your heal tool, set the source somewhere over here, or even from the forehead. The heal tool, your source doesn't matter. It's just the texture that you want, not the actual image, or not the actual, I guess, pixels of the source. So just click around here, change your source a couple of times, just so that we have the right texture. It's not clearly repeated on our edited section, I guess you could say. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to make this nose less animated as it looks right now. It looks like it was made by a 3D computer, and make it more realistic, to make it look like it wasn't edited by anything. Well, obviously, Navi's aren't real, but you know what I mean. So you want to take your source with the heal tool again, from pretty much anywhere, just as long as it has a good hard texture, and paint again on the nose. And one of the beauties of the heal tool, I think, is that it actually blends your gradient even more, so it looks even more natural. Make sure you change your texture all the time, like I said before. This is important. All the sections that you painted, you might want to get with the heal tool, or else they will look like they are painted.